You visit lbc.co.uk right now and you can watch this segment of the programme in glorious HD. The reason, because I have with me Eddie Izzard, actor and comedian, and Dan Snow, the TV historian. Welcome to you both. I'll leave it to you to explain why you're here. Eddie.
Dan set this up, so I'm going to let Dan start it off. Or I can start if you want, but I think you should start.
Well, it was a moment of madness. No, we 3 days ago, we were getting... I think the rest of Britain woke up to what's happening up in Scotland. They woke up to the very real possibility that our brothers and sisters north of the border in Scotland might choose to go their separate ways. And we got a huge number of people online, Facebook, Twitter, the rest of it, going, is there not some way we can just gather together, just to mark this moment, just to... we feel so voiceless, so powerless. And so we said, OK, fine, let's do this. And we gave Eddie a call, and thank goodness he was available. And we are going to put on a citizens' gathering in Trafalgar Square today at 6 o'clock for people who want to tell the Scottish voters that while they're making their decision, and it's an exciting, invigorating process they're going through, that we, their fellow citizens, hope they stay.
Eddie.
Yeah, we know it's totally their democratic right to do this, and it's great that it's democracy. That is a beautiful thing that we have centuries before 300 years of being together. We've had centuries of fighting and stuff, and people do forget that down the line. But this is a beautiful thing that democracy is happening. They do have that choice. It is not our choice, but I think it's very difficult for the people of Scotland to know what the people who are living in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland think. Now, this is London. This is only just one city, but we could do this. We thought we would do this. And we just want to ask them to please stay, because we'd like to say we would. I think it would be very sad, and it would be like a divorce of a family if they do go away.
Because I think it's only now that people, certainly in England, are thinking about the consequences of what could happen after a yes vote. And I guess we want to get away with the sort of the threats that keep being issued by businesses and all the rest in Scotland, because I actually think they're quite counterproductive. I don't think a lot of people necessarily believe those, but it would transform the nature of this country, wouldn't it?
It would be, yes, it would be a very different country. We don't exactly know what's going to happen. And I think we can understand totally that people in Scotland would like more powers. And a vote for no thank you is actually going to vote for more powers. But a vote for separation, if they do vote for separation, then that's it. And it's a sort of leap in the dark. We really don't know what's going to happen. That is probably the truth of it.
Eddie and I talked about this about two years ago. We were fascinated by this story, and it's funny that people think it's not a positive case to be made. It's the most positive thing imaginable, that peoples come together with very different pasts and very different backgrounds, very different experiences through our long histories, and decide to put aside differences, to come together, to work together, to create extraordinary things. The Industrial Revolution, the modern world, seeing off fascism in the 1940s. This is the most exciting and positive and inspirational story.
But why on earth haven't the Better Together campaign harnessed exactly those kind of views? Because their campaign, from my perspective anyway, seems to be incredibly negative. It's all about threats. It's all about the bad things that could happen, rather than putting the positive vision for the union.
No, I think there has been a positive vision, and obviously there are some ideas that there could be a negativity or negative things that could happen if Scotland does vote for separation. But I don't think it's all been one or the other. And I do think there's a lot of people who are voting for independence. They will really attack against anyone who's putting out the other point of view. And I think it's positive for democracy that the other point of view should be put out. I think a lot of pro-union people who are actually Scottish are rather worried about putting their points of view forward. They're not actually saying anything, even though they're pro-union, because they were going to get attacked so much.
What do you make, Dan, of the fact that it seems as though more older people would be voting no, but it's the younger people who'll vote yes? And if it's a very narrow vote, it's all very well for David Cameron to say this is a once-in-a-generation thing. You can imagine in 10 or 20 years' time that they might be revisited, because you'll have a lot more younger people wanting separation.
Yeah, I think that's a very sad prospect. We have the money and effort that's gone into this campaign is extraordinary. On one level, that's great. It's great to see the engagement. My goodness, we could have solved our energy dependency on the Russians and the Middle East if we'd actually put this much time and thinking into that, for example. But I think that I'm not sure. The young people do seem to be swinging recently, but actually across schools across Scotland, lots and lots of young people are saying, no, actually this kind of narrow nationalist sense of Scottishness isn't the one I want to embrace. You know, young people are as likely to go down to Bestival or Glastonbury or whatever in Scotland now, far more than a generation ago. And I think hopefully young people, just as young people in the UK are more likely to be fond of Europe, I think young people in Scotland see that the future lies in globalisation, in working across borders and not erecting these old-fashioned... It's such an old-fashioned idea, a border. I mean, I hate borders. I hate crossing borders. Well,
the astronauts said it up in space. Then they look down, there are no borders. We create them. Is the third millennium, the beginning of the third millennium, the time to actually set one up? Because you can get more... A vote for no thank you is a vote for more powers and staying together. And the Olympics, that'll go. What we had, that beautiful thing in the Olympics where the country was so together. I mean, so together. It came from this kind of negative media point of view just beforehand, saying, oh, it's all going to go wrong. And we went to a beautiful place.
Do you know, I had a caller the other day who said that he'd phoned a couple of his friends in Scotland who were both intending to vote yes. And he said, but hang on a minute, you were with me on that Saturday of the Olympics when we won all those gold medals. You were cheering for the British flag. You won't get that anymore. And apparently it really made them reevaluate their reasons for voting yes, because they then realised what they'd be missing out on.
Well, I ran marathons 5 years ago. This is the day...
Lots of them.
Well, this is the day I got back. This is actually 5 years to the day that I got back. And when I crossed over these lines, which used to be borders when you used to move troops over, which I went from England to Wales and up to Northern Ireland and Scotland, there was no... People didn't change. They were still friendly. They were still helpful. They were still kids were saying what you're doing, I'll come and run with you. And I ran with the Saltire, with the Scottish flag, 8 marathons through Scotland. I played just about every major town and city, all the way up to Shetland and Orkney and Stornoway, and I think it is a beautiful thing that Scottish people and English people, Welsh people, Northern Irish people, that we are together. We are the United Kingdom. We're a success, and to split that up is going to be tragic. But it's their decision. But we're just saying that we do feel for them and we want them to be happy, but it might be impossible to be happy because it could be just right on the knife edge of it.
So when you have an idea for a rally like this and you think, hey, let's do it in Trafalgar Square in 3 days' time, who do you phone?
Yeah, it's trickier than it sounds. I've got to say, we were expecting Jagger and McCartney. It's quite hard to book those guys last minute. Turns out. Well, you just phone the people in charge of Trafalgar Square and you say this is a weird one, but we're doing anything Monday night, and so we're going to go down there today. I hope Londoners turn up. I hope because we haven't got any massive rock stars playing. It's a gathering. It's a citizens' gathering. It's people come together. It's like a kind of a flash gathering.
And it's not politicians. It's just people. So if you care, if you give a damn, come along. It's in an hour's time.
Well, we're going to have our reporter down there, so I hope someone turns up that she's got something to report on.
Well,
I imagine it's going to be quite busy. And right, a prediction from you. You both obviously hope that the Better Together campaign are going to win. The vote clearly is on a knife edge. How confident can you be that your side will win?
You could never be confident, but... as I say again, it is a beautiful thing that we're not picking up swords. People are getting angry, and we know that it's really going right up to that edge. But no one's saying let's get any weapons out. There's no fighting. That is the beautiful thing about it. So whatever will happen, will happen. But we just want to send a message up to say Scotland is family, and we just like to say we care.
Dan?
Well, I think it looks like it's going to be a very narrow result. It looks probably like it'll be a narrow no vote, but that's hardly better than a yes vote, really, because it's sad. It's a terrible thing to me that of my fellow citizens north of the border in Scotland, nearly half of them, give or take, would rather not be my fellow citizens anymore, and that's something that it saddens me deeply, and perhaps Eddie and I can help to, do a tiny bit today. We'll see.
Well, Dan Snow, Eddie Izzard, thank you very much indeed for joining us. The rally begins at 6 o'clock in Trafalgar Square. If you support the Better Together campaign, you might want to pop down there and have a word with Eddie and Dan. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to turn our attention to ISIS after the terrible